Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good day, everybody. It is Saturday, October 22nd, and you know what that means. It is time for the High Risk Wrestling Podcast. I am your host. Just got out one of them back alley brawls, a la William Regal. It is I, Jeremy Pierce. Welcome to the High Risk Wrestling Podcast. It is good to have you all here, and thank you as always for joining me once again. You can check out the socials, Charismatic Creations on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube, Charismatic_Creations52 on Instagram, and the 215 on Twitter. Previously on the High Risk Wrestling Podcast, we looked at the scariest moments in wrestling history. And today we'll be looking at Halloween Havoc. Just having a flashback to look at the best stuff, the worst stuff, and just talking about the event, as there is a Halloween Havoc event tonight, a takeover apparently for NXT, and we'll make some predictions for that show as well. Can't wait for you to join me, and let's get this going. But for now, you all know what's next, so just go on and hit my music. So let's check out the news. What do we have going on? What has happened? So day one has been canceled. Guess it's been one and done, like the Usos finishers. Yes, day one has been canceled. Essentially, there's just too much going on that kind of day weekend to run the event. So there will be, right now, it doesn't look like there will be any premium live event between Survivor Series and the Royal Rumble. That's 2 months, nothing. They might, I feel like they might schedule something in there. And currently, let me see what we got. There's a live event going on. The SmackDown, I guess, but that's not really good enough. And essentially, WWE will be changing their premium live events in 2023. Less gimmick shows, so please, no more Hell in a Cell, no more Extreme Rules, no more Elimination Chamber, more international shows. Yes, what you really need to do. As you can see, Clash at the Castle was a large success, and just do more of that. The WWE has yet to make a deal with Hulu to keep their programming on there. As of now, it is still on there, but I think there's maybe a 9 to 10 day window where things can expire. Essentially, you got to be on Hulu, but you also have Peacock. Rampage, what day was that? The October 7th show? Right? Make sure. The October 7th show. Or the 14th? The 7th, I believe. Yeah. 458,000. I'm tripping. Last week's show, not the 21st, the 14th. 458,000 viewers. That is up from the previous week of 404,000 viewers. You got to get back over 500. Chris Jericho has signed a new multi-year contract, and it gives him a new elevated position. Just so John Moxley has been made a coach, Jericho becomes the AEW creative advisor, and now he's a producer as well, and will mentor young talent. GOAT status. Raw ratings dropped this week. Let me see. They brought in 1.8 million viewers with a 0.50 in the 18 to 49 demo. That is down from last week's episode, the 10th, with a 1.824 and a 0.55 in the 18 to 49 demo. Yes, Ace still has been fired. It was a no-brainer. Ace still didn't think he would get fired. It was a no-brainer. He was always going to get fired. As you know, NXT AEW went head-to-head this past Tuesday, and Dynamite won, but barely. Dynamite did 752,000 viewers with a .26 in the 18 to 49 demo, whereas NXT pulled in 676,000 with a .13 in the 18 to 49 demo. NXT was actually down from the previous week, obviously because they had competition with Dynamite. And just sticking with that, NXT only beat Dynamite a few times when they warred together during the Wednesday Night Wars. They ran against each other for 76 weeks. NXT lost everyone except for 10. NXT won 10 weeks out of the 76 weeks. They tied a few other times as well. But also sticking with this past week's Dynamite, they lost a ton of viewers throughout this week's episode. Listen, I was going back and forth. I was watching Dynamite. I was watching the Sixers. I was watching the Phillies. It was a lot going on. So it makes sense that they would lose ratings throughout the show. Hangman Page, as you all know, has suffered a concussion on Dynamite this past week. He released a statement saying thank you. He's all right. He's feeling good. He had a panini for lunch. He's good. They'll check him here and there, but that's really, really good news. Over on Dark, Athena and Jody Threat had a really stiff match, and they it was reckless to say the least. They had a talking to Athena and Jody Threat. Things are all good. Jody had no problem, and it was just Athena was noticing that Jody was getting cheered, and so she decided to play the heel role and just go in stiff a little bit more. That's it. Miz is currently working through an injury. He has a busted bursa sac. I don't know what that means. And he has a messed up shoulder right now. AEW's announced Ring of Honor will be having their final battle. Date and venue has been announced for December 10th at the DFW Metroplex in Arlington, Texas. Let's go. We'll see what we got going on there. And sticking with that, the WWE will be running an NXT special the same night as Final Battle. They'll be running some Takeover, don't know which one. The event will be at the Performance Center. Takeovers really should be held at the Performance Center because of the name Takeover, but I digress. AEW are in talks to buy out CM Punk's contract, and it's inevitable he's not coming back to the company. Thunder Rosa might not return this year. She is still dealing with her back injury. I'm wishing her the best. She's one of my favorites. Can't wait for her to come back. Penelope Ford, once again, is injured, and I really like Penelope Ford. I really, really do. She's injured a lot. And lastly, Willow Nightingale, the Ring of Honor standout, is now all elite. She has officially signed with the company. This is just really good news. I'm hoping Tony Khan said after Final Battle we'll get some more news, but I'm hoping we can finally get this Ring of Honor weekly television show. That's the news, and we'll be right back. All right, so Monday Night Raw, we were setting the stage for new stories, but there's been some missing people. Can we put an APB out for Ciampa, Theory, and KO? They haven't been on the show for the last couple of weeks. Surprisingly, Ciampa and Theory were both on NXT. I'm sorry, Theory and KO were both on NXT. Go fucking figure. So we open up with a brawl between Brock and Bobby Lashley. Bobby comes out on top after laying out Brock, and this is a good way to spice up the feud. We've been done a couple of these brawls since Triple H has taken over. We need to dial them back. some, but I am all for Brock and Bobby beating the fucking shit out of each other. The OC beat the Alpha Academy, which, like, that was going to happen, but I'm really tired of the Alpha Academy losing matches. Judgment Day comes out. They mock the OC and Styles challenges Dom to a match. Seth Rollins celebrates his title victory, and Ali wants next. They fight, and Seth Rollins stands tall. Damage Control beat Bianca Belair and Candice LeRae. And I always like when established teams beat teams that were thrown together. So The Miz fakes an injury to get out of his match with Loomis, and Johnny Gargano tricks him into showing that he's not. All of a sudden, Miz is miraculously healed. JBL returns and introduces Baron Corbin as the new wrestling guy. He also takes shots at Ziggler. Corbin beats Ziggler. Corbin's now on Raw because he was traded for Rey Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio beat AJ Styles with help from the Judgment Day. Nobody thought that would happen. Dom has a win over AJ Styles. Miz attacks Loomis before the match, so the match doesn't happen. Elias returns, has a little concert, is interrupted by Riddle. They have some fun. Seth interrupts. Seth defends the United States Championship against Matt Riddle. Elias gets involved and Seth retains, but Elias' interference was kind of weird. So I want to see where they're going to go with him. Ali attacks Seth. I don't know why I wrote Riddle. Attacks Seth after the match, and he's going to tell Seth, I'm making me your problem. You know the match is going to be fire. We probably will end up getting a fatal 4-way at Crown Jewel, Seth, Riddle, Ali, and Elias. Over on Dynamite, very, very solid show that was marred by injury. So I'm going to give this one a thumbs up, actually. Our opening match was the Death Triangle retaining the Trios Championship against the Best Friends. It's a good match. Phoenix does have an issue with Pac continuously trying to cheat. That is going to come to a head. Toni Storm retained the interim women's championship against Hikaru Shida. Rebel and Britt attacked after the match. Saraya evens the odds, and then Riho returned. So it looks like Riho will probably be next in line for Toni Storm. Probably at Full Gear, I suppose, because Toni doesn't have an opponent for Full Gear. We're almost for sure doing Saraya versus Britt at Full Gear. We had a backstage segment with FTR and Swerve. They're going to face each other next week to decide who the true number one contenders are to take on the Acclaimed. But what happened to the Gun Club? What I could see is the Gun Club and costing FTR the match, allowing Swerve and Our Glory to get their rubber match against the Acclaimed, and then we can do the split with them. Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt attack Darby Allin. Words can't do justice of this in-ring segment between MJF and William Regal, the promo battle they had. It's playing on MJF securities and his history with William Regal before, they both came to AEW. They got the crowd to cheer for MJF, but Regal is no slouch on the mic either, and he's talking about his history and how easy MJF has had it. Just words can't do justice of how good it was. Go and watch it. That's all I gotta say. Wheeler Yuta has an issue with Bryan Danielson and his constant and consistent infatuation with Daniel Garcia. Bryan wants to just put him in the backboard Comic Club, and Garcia showed his true colors where Yuta had to fight blood and bleed to get in. And he's got a point. Chris Jericho retained the Ring of Honor Championship over another former Ring of Honor champion in Dalton Castle. He then goes to attack Riccaboni, the commentator, but Jerry Lynn stopped him. Well, Jerry Lynn took apology for his troubles, and Jerry Lynn is a former Ring of Honor champion. And in our main event, Jon Moxley defended the AEW World Championship against Hangman Page and won due to giving Hangman a concussion. That's not how, it was supposed to end, obviously, but AEW took all the right precautions and making sure Hangman was safe. So the match ended at about 9:52, so they had about 8 minutes to riff. So Mox just riffed on the mic, and then out came MJF, and he riffed and just did a 6-7 minute segment. Just shows you how good these professionals are, man. It's not easy, and you can see why MJF and Mox are at the top of the business. Over on Impact, We're telling two stories, one with Bully Ray and one with Kazarian. So Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer defeated the Bullet Club, but Ace Austin was laid out before the match, so we're trying to figure out who laid out Ace. Taylor Wilde beat Mia Yim. This was Mia Yim's, I believe, last match in Impact. Mickey came out and said she wants to face Taylor Wilde. They've both been in the company, but rarely at the same time. And she wants Taylor at the last rodeo. VXT and Giselle Shaw attack until Jordan Grace makes the save. Joe Hendry gets the W. Kaz does option C, which is you relinquish the X Division Championship to get a shot at the World Championship. Steve Macklin attacks, and Alexander makes the save. Rich Swann beat Eric Young when a man in a yellow hoodie attacked. Sami Callihan made the save. Heath Slater and Rhino won the tag team titles, and guess what? Honor No More is no more. PCO is on his own. As you know, Matt Bennett and Matt Taven are over in AEW doing something, so that leaves PCO, Vincent, and Eddie Edwards, and we'll see what's going on with them. Over on SmackDown, this was a subpar show. It was solid, not great, gets a thumbs down, and it was bound to happen at some point. Raw's going to have a show like that as well. Our first match was Solo Sikoa defeating Sheamus, and the Bloodline injures and takes out Sheamus. So now what we're probably going to get here is Sheamus and the Brutes being out, and they will most likely be the War Games match for the Bloodline, and I would like for them to add maybe Tyler Bate to the Brawling Brutes. Liv Morgan. The Bloodline, and also the Bloodline can't touch Logan Paul later in the evening. Bray Wyatt had a backstage segment still continuing what he was talking about last week, and then later in the evening, Uncle Howdy, the rabbit mask guy, contradicts that. So I'm interested to see where they're going to go with this. Liv Morgan and Sonya Deville ended in a double count out, and Liv goes extreme once again. Omos and Braun squares off. Omos pushes Braun out of the ring, and Braun laughs like, okay. All right, this match is going to happen at Crown Jewel. Drew McIntyre gets Karrion Kross in a steel cage, also at Crown Jewel. Damage Control retained the tag team championships over Shotzi and Raquel. Ronda Rousey tells it like it is. She's like, listen, I give the fans everything, and they booed me. And I don't do open challengers for the fans. I do open challenges for me, for the best. And fans don't want the best to win. They want their favorites to win. So we got either a heel or a tweener Ronda Rousey. Rey Mysterio beat Ludwig Kaiser, and Logan Paul says stuff who's still utterly delusional. Jay attacks him even though Jay was not supposed to attack him, and Paul escapes. All right. We'll see what we're doing here. Over on Rampage, they claimed defeated the Varsity Athletes, which is Josh Woods and Tony Nese. And they get to scissor once again. I do wish this feud was dragged out much longer, but not much longer, but at least for a couple more weeks, because they do have to face whether in the championship at Full Gear. You know what I mean? Ortiz gets the Lucha Brothers to talk to Eddie about his temper, and they're like, yo, dog, we family, we don't want you to lose your job again. Pac mocks Eddie, so I can see Pac versus Eddie at Full Gear. Hook retains the FTW championship over Daivari. Willow Nightingale defeats Layla Gray. Jade still doesn't have her championship, and Orange Cassidy retains the All Atlantic Championship in a triple threat match over number 10 and Roosh. Our matches of the week are from Raw, the United States Championship match, Seth Rollins versus Matt Riddle. From Dynamite, the Women's Championship match, Toni Storm versus Hikaru Shida. I wish it would have longer. I think it got 9 minutes. I wish it would have gotten 15 because these ladies can go. And I feel like Toni and Shida should have been either, maybe the opening match, or they can't be the main event, and I definitely don't want them in a death spot. So where they were, it's kind of fine. Just wish they would have got more time. The Ring of Honor Championship match between Chris Jericho and Dalton Castle, and if you weren't a fan of Dalton Castle before, you should be a fan of Dalton Castle now, also a former Ring of Honor World Champion. Over on Impact, Mia Yim versus Taylor Wilde, two women that I absolutely adore and have been really big fans of. And over on Rampage, the All Atlantic Championship. Orange Cassidy versus Rouge versus 10 with Orange Cassidy retaining. And I'm happy that the OC is getting a spotlight. Baby, our star of the week is not MGF, it is actually William Regal, because he just does consistently great work when he's ever on commentary, when the BCC have their matches, and his promo battle with MGF was just great, man. So go and check that out, and we'll be right back with our top story. Halloween Havoc. Halloween Havoc is such a WCW tradition, and I'm happy it's back. I'm happy that the WWE has brought it back. So how about we just have a flashback? You know what I mean? Let's take a look at Halloween Havoc. There is a Halloween Havoc event today, and we'll just look back at some of the good, the bad of Halloween Havoc, and we'll also take a look at we'll make a prediction for the Halloween Havoc takeover tonight. So first of all, there are some things you need to know about Halloween Havoc, and thank you as always for the Sportster. They come through as always with the information. It started out as an NWA event, much like a lot of WCW. It came from NWA. The first two events were under the NWA banner, and then once they broke off, the third event featured Lex Luger defending the WCW Championship against Ron Simmons in the main event. But the opening match was the Chamber of Horrors, which is considered one of the worst matches in the history of professional wrestling, and we will definitely take a look at that. The MGM Grand in Vegas hosted the last 5 Halloween Havoc WCW shows. That it kind of became one of their mainstays. WCW, they had a couple places where they just ran events. This is something that Eric Bischoff came up with, having an event take place every year, and even Slim Jim was sponsored the event. It just worked. Warrior, aka the Ultimate Warrior, that was his only singles WCW match, and it was pumped up. It was hyped. The Warrior, Ultimate Warrior, came, and it was crazy, right? That was his only match. The only match, and the match was horrible. Who did he fight? Halloween Havoc 1998. I think he fought Hogan. Yeah, he fought Hogan. It was a horrible match, but the main event was saved by DDP and Goldberg. Let's take a look at that card real quick. It was a 12-match card. We opened up with Jericho retaining the TV championship against Raven. Wrath defeated Ming. Disco Inferno defeated Juventud Guerrera. Alex Wright defeated Finley. Perry Saturn, going by Saturn, defeated Lodi. Billy Kidman retained the Cruiserweight Championship over Disco Inferno. Rick Steiner and Buff Bagwell defeated the Giants and Scott Steiner to win the World Tag Team Championships. Then Rick Steiner defeated Scott Steiner in a match. Scott Hall defeated Kevin Nash by countout. Bret Hart retained the United States Championship, defeating Sting by knockout. Hogan defeated the Warrior, and Goldberg retained the World Championship, defeating DDP. Sting was undefeated at Halloween Havoc up until 1998. Think about that. Think about that. And we just talked about the 1998 show, and he got knocked out by Bret Hart. Competed every year from 89 to 98 with the exception of 94 and 96. Spin the wheel, make the deal. Yeah. Halloween Havoc debut 1992. It's actually really good event. Bischoff thinks it's the marquee event in WCW, and I'm just thinking about it. Their version of WrestleMania is Starrcade. So they have Starrcade, and Starrcade predates WrestleMania, but WrestleMania obviously ended up being bigger. So Bischoff went out of his way to make their marquee event Halloween Havoc. Halloween Havoc was also the Warriors' last match. So not only was it his only WCW match, it was also his last match. It was horrible. It's also the only Halloween-centric wrestling event, which really blows my mind that it's like the only event. And Halloween Havoc lasted the entirety of WCW. So there you go. But here's the thing. Don't be fooled. It's never really a great event. The main events almost always sucked. Like, we got the good one in 98, but this is where the show really went off the stage. It also gave us the Chamber of Horrors match, which we know is just bad. That's how you want to call it. Just bad. Just bad. And some of the better matches all have taken place in NXT. The cards are almost always underwhelming. And even though you have huge names, like, the wrestling was just blah. I mean, we got one of the greatest matches in the history of professional wrestling, Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio, Bash at the Beach, Halloween Havoc 1997, but still, like, they're never really critically acclaimed. Like, you look at that 1997 event, even though it was one of the better matches of the decade, look at the card. Yuji Nagata defeated Ultimo Dragon. Chris Jericho defeated Guido. Obviously the Rey Mysterio Eddie Guerrero match. Alex Wright with Deborah. Oh my God, Lord, totally forgot about that. Defeated Steve McMichael. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Jacqueline defeated Disco Inferno. Kurt Hennig retained the U.S. Championship over Ric Flair. Lex Luger and Scott Hall went in no contest. Larry Zbyszko was the special guest ref. Randy Savage defeated DDP in a Las Vegas sudden death match. I don't even know what kind of fucking match that is. And Piper defeated Hogan by submission in a steel cage. So, yeah. That's just kind of how it's been. You know, Halloween Havoc it's like we think fondly of it, but it's never really been a great event. So you want to take a look at the worst matches in Halloween Havoc history? Let's do it. You want to go by Dave Meltzer, or do you want to go by cage match? Let's just... Meltzer can be... He can be hit or miss. More so miss, but let's go with the cage matches, because cage match is the fan voting. Number 10, Lex Luger versus Ming. Halloween Havoc 1995, 5.56. Wow. I mean, 1992, we had the coal miners in our glove. Number 9, Mike Rotunda versus the Z-Man. I got a 5. Halloween Havoc, 1989. What's this feature? Mike Rotunda, who you know as IRS, versus the Z-Man. Who remembers the Z-Man? Number 8, Bret Hart versus Sting, Halloween Havoc, 98. Now you have 2 legends, 2 of the GOATs. So how could this match be rated a 4.9 out of 10? They have no business being on any worst of lists, but this was late era WCW, and this comes after Starrcade 97, where Bret just... We gotta go take a look at that someday, Starrcade 97. But Sting was challenging Bret for the U.S. title, and this match should have not happened until Starrcade 98. It was just slow, and it was just ass. Number 7, Lex Luger versus Randy Savage. Also, again, another 4.5. These dudes shouldn't be on any worst of lists. Remember the monster truck fight? That was the same. Like, story was fine here, and we know the story. Number 6, Road Warriors versus the Skyscrapers, 4.14. Now, we love the Road Warriors, but Skyscraper, Sid Vicious, Dan Spivey, managed by Teddy Long. I mean, it's low because this was Sid in his early time and Clueless in the Ring. But it's a slugfest, and it was just weird and just bad. Number 5, the Cuban Assassin versus Tommy Rich, a 3.5 out of 10. Halloween Havoc 89, which is a really bad show, even though Halloween Havoc 2000 is also another really bad show. Number 4, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. 1998 keeps popping up on this list. These two have never been the greatest in the ring. Really bad story, playing into hard substance abuse issues, and the match was bad. Like, Kevin Nash destroyed Hall and got an intentional count out. It was just bad. Number 3, the Chamber of Horrors. Now you would think the Chamber of Horrors match would be the worst match. It's not. But the Chamber of Horrors featured Abdullah the Butcher, Big Van Vader, Cactus Jack, and the Diamond Stud versus El Gigante, Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner, and Sting. And we'll talk about the Chamber of Horrors match next. This was just bad, and this was the opener. Number 2, Hulk Hogan versus the Giant, Halloween Havoc, 1995. You can really guess why this was just bad. It's also the debut of the Yeti. Please go look that up. And number 1, Hollywood Hogan versus the Warrior, 1998. We've talked about this already. This just wasn't good, and it involved a fucking fireball. What? A fire... Why is there a fireball involved in Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan matches? Help me, nigga, please. Anyway, Chamber of Horrors match, just bad all around. 1991 Halloween Havoc. So here were the rules. All 8 wrestlers would start in the ring, and after about 5 minutes, the secondary cage would descend from somewhere above. Once that happened, the objective would be to put one of the opposing team members into the electric chair, flip the amusingly large switch that hung on the cage wall. The primary cage itself looks especially familiar to the cage used in Electrified Thunderdome cage match at Halloween Havoc 1989. This saw Terry Funk in the Great Muta battle against Ric Flair and Sting, just without the hanging lines and tree branches. The cage was also equipped with a one-sided handcuffs attached to each cage of the wall to be used for incapacitating other members. That was the Chamber of Horrors match, and the teams for the match again were scheduled to be very, very different. Among many other things, Barry Windham was attacked during the opening of the show by Arn Anderson. Larry Zbyszko taking him out of the match. So the match ended up happening in the cage with Sting, the Steiner Brothers, and El Gigante versus Big Van Vader, Cactus Jack, Abdullah the Butcher, and Scott Hall during his Diamond Stud eras. Good fucking Lord. One Man Gang and Oz were also advertised for the match at one point. This was the first match on the card, even though it was billed up as the main event. And obviously, you know why it was first, is because you got to build the cage. You can have time, you can build it up before the show. It's easier to take down than to put up in the middle of a show. So it was just bad, and it's Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone talk about the match. They announced the rules. It's just each member will go back and forth. It was almost kind of like a really, really bad War Games match. That's essentially what it was, and had all-time greats, and it's just damn. The worst is when they finally electrocuted Abdullah. They electrocuted Rick Steiner. Cactus Jack looks, gets the go-ahead sign from Abdullah. He gives the bang bang, hits the switch. 25 seconds. Rick Steiner gives a belly-to-belly to the Butcher into the chair, hooks him up, flips the switch, and flashing lights, pyrotechnics, fire. It was just bad and crazy, and they killed Abdullah the Butcher. I'm over it. I am over all of it. But let's look at the best matches in Halloween Havoc history before we go on and make our predictions for the Takeover. So the best matches, we got number 10, Laura Steven Regal versus Davey Boy Smith. There you go. 7.14 out of 10. These are two great wrestlers. William Regal, Davey Boy Smith, who you know as the British Bulldog, technicians at their finest, and put on a solid showing. Number 9, the Steiner Brothers versus the Nasty Boys. Now, I'm very surprised that the Nasty Boys are here, because I think the Nasty Boys are absolute trash, but they're solid brawlers. Number 8, Goldberg DDP, Halloween Havoc 1998. One of the few very good matches in Goldberg's career, and I will attribute a lot of that to DDP. Number 7, from Halloween Havoc 2020, Raquel Gonzalez versus Rhea Ripley, and I'm giving all of the credit to Rhea Ripley because Raquel Gonzalez is average and but. Number 6, Damian Priest, Johnny Gargano. It's Damian Priest and Johnny Gargano. These are really good wrestlers, and we know how good Johnny Gargano is. Number 5, Big Van Vader versus Cactus Jack from Halloween Havoc 1993. Number 4, Doom versus the Four Horsemen. Now this is good stuff. Please check this out. Arn Anderson and Ric Flair challenging Ron Simmons and Butch Reed. Oh man, that was good stuff. Number 3, my girl Io Shirai, Candice LeRae, Halloween Havoc 2020. It's Candice LeRae and Io Shirai. fighting in a ladder match. Fighting in a tables, ladders, and Scariest match for the women's championship in NXT. These are two of the best women's wrestlers on the planet. Io Shirai, in my opinion, is the best wrestler on the planet. It's just great. Number 2, Rey Mysterio versus Dean Malenko, Halloween Havoc 1996. 2 GOATs. The technical master that is Dean Malenko, the lucha superstar that is Rey Mysterio, incapable of having a bad match. And of course, we know what number 1 is by far and away the greatest match in Halloween Havoc's history. Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Halloween Havoc 1997, and Rey Mysterio with that iconic purple one-piece suit on. Guys, we know what they did in WWE, but you want to see how they really got themselves started? Please check them out here. Check them out at ECW. It's just fantastic. And before we end this show, let's go do our preview predictions for Halloween Havoc tonight. So we got our hosts Shotzi Blackheart and Quincy Elliott they'll do a very, very fine job, and only really Shotzi should be hosting this. I'm just saying. We have an ambulance match: Julius Creed versus Damon Kemp. Damon Kemp, he was doing everything in his power to just fuck over Diamond Mine and the Creed brothers, but Julius has kind of really been the standout in this. I like Damon Kemp to win here. I do. I think it's going to be a very solid victory for him. Spin the wheel, make the deal. Weapons Wild match: Roxanne Perez versus Cora Jade. Good friends, better enemies. Roxanne Perez has to win this. She has to win this. Listen, Cora's nice, whatever. Roxanne Perez is a fucking prodigy when it comes to professional wrestling, and she's going to get caught up to the main roster way before Cora Jade. Period. Cora won the first match. Roxanne needs, when I say Roxanne needs to win this match, Roxanne Perez needs to win this match. All right. Next up, the NXT Women's Championship, Mandy Rose defending against Alba Fire. Y'all know how I feel. Mandy Rose is average, solid in the ring, like okay, but Alba Fire should not be in NXT. So if she's going to be here, she needs to be at the top. Alba Fire is winning this match. Okay? Toxic Attraction don't have the tag team belts anymore. Alba Fire needs to win this match. Period. Picking Alba Fire. All right? Apollo Crews, Grayson Waller, just a regular. It's a spin the wheel, make the deal match. So we'll see what stipulation gets picked. But I like Apollo here. He's got to get his big W since his return to NXT. Grayson's nice, but I can see him really getting caught up in Apollo staying in NXT. So I'll give Apollo the victory. Our fatal 5-way ladder match for the vacant NXT North American Championship: Nathan Frazier, Ora Mensah, Carmelo Hayes, Wes Lee, and Von Wagner. Von Wagner is irrelevant in this match. Whatever. But Melo is one of the two best guys here. He won't win because I think Melo needs to be called up soon, and he doesn't need the championship anymore. So for me, it's between Wesley, Ora Mensah, and Nathan Frazier. I'm putting my money on Ora Mensah for the random victory. I don't know why. He's just here, but I could see them doing something while I'm putting the championship on him. And in our main event, the NXT Championship, Braun Breaker defended against JD McDonough and Ilya Dragunov, two of the mainstays from NXT UK. I could actually see Braun losing here, and I think Braun will lose. He's been champion for most of the NXT run of 2.0, and the question is it Dragunov or McDonough? I'm going to go with McDonough. I'm going to go with him just because he's the only one that really hasn't held that world championship. So that's my predictions for NXT Takeover Halloween Havoc, Damon Kemp over Julius Creed, Roxanne Perez over Cora Jade, Alba Fire over Mandy Rose, Apollo Crews over Grayson Waller, Ora Mensa to win the North American Championship, and JD McDonough to win the NXT Championship. Thank you all for listening. As always, I very much appreciate it. Next week, really good show. We're going to be taking a look at the Roman Reigns problem. And yes, there is a problem that needs to be addressed. As always, you can check me out on my socials: Charismatic Creations on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube, Charismatic_Creations52 on Instagram, and the 215 on Twitter. And as always, Shotzi Blackheart, Wendy Chu, Zia Lee, and Gigi Dolan. Holla at your boy. Peace.